Oh, this takes me back. Like basically everyone else who makes game reviews on YouTube, I have a lot of nostalgia for the first N64 Zelda game, Ocarina of Time. And speaking of everyone else who makes game reviews on YouTube, this video is admittedly a bit redundant considering that Ocarina of Time is one of the most discussed, debated, and deconstructed games ever made. Looking at my full video catalog, you'd think I'd be all too eager to jump in and make yet another unoriginal pointless video, but even this was too well worn a path for me at first. And it's not like the game doesn't make its main ideas clear as day, since at its core, Ocarina of Time is a story all about the struggle to grow up. The quest Link takes in Ocarina, being some metaphor or symbolic adventure about maturing, is the topic of basically every single analysis of this game. If somehow you have absolutely no idea about this though, it might be worth summing up. It starts off with Link in his childhood home, surrounded by friends and his father figure, the Deku Tree. When the call for adventure arrives, he squabbles with the local bully, fights a big spider in the Deku Tree, and gets the instructions for his grand adventure. While the Deku Tree does die, in general this early chunk of the game is fairly lighthearted. Link goes to meet Zelda, the two make a plan to foil the usurper Ganondorf, he helps the Gorons get their favorite type of food back, and enters the belly of a whale to help fix its tummy ache. Pretty easygoing stuff, kind of closer to a game two kids are playing rather than a serious quest to stop a revolt. This tone takes a shift for the dark when Link collects 3 MacGuffins, but Ganondorf makes his play, chasing Zelda out of Hyrule Castle. Ganondorf then forces Link to grow up fast, as after opening the gate to the Sacred Realm, Ganondorf gets those sacred MacGuffins, and Link is thrust into a ruined future 7 years later. Here, the world is in absolute shambles, and rather than be sent to go fix silly issues, Link is forced to restore flow and vitality of the world. Along the way, the script reinforces this whole maturity angle. In the past section, Link is written off as a dumb kid by numerous people, and his limits are emphasized by being too small to use the Hylian shield and how effortlessly Ganondorf beats him in their first encounter. In the future, the objectives become more important, the stakes become more dire, and the writing reinforces the idea of manhood and how much he's grown. Again, all this stuff is content expanded on and picked apart in much longer, much better videos than the ones I put out, but since I'm a jackass who thinks he has some original thoughts in his head, I do have one detail to expand on in this reading. See, in all of the takes on Ocarina of Time I've come across, I don't think any of them have really delved into Ganondorf's role in the maturity and growing up allegory. The most he ever gets is some vague acknowledgement of him being the final gatekeeper guarding the threshold to maturity or growing up or whatever, or some archetypal dragon in Link's hero's journey or whatever. For my money though, there's a bit more to it than that. The way I see it, Ganondorf is a direct parallel antagonist for Link's coming-of-age story. Ganondorf is the biological adult who never truly grows up, or becomes a man, so to speak, compared to the fast-maturing Link. He's the kind of person who never takes responsibility for himself or initiative for what he wants, and the absolute state of Hyrule in the future is a visualization of the personal stagnation he represents. Just as we quickly ran down Link's journey, let's do the same for Ganondorf. He's the king of the Gerudo people out in the desert, and the only reason he has this role is due to being the only man born into a tribe of women every 100 years, which in their culture gives him the throne instantly. In short, not only was he not born into a royal family, but he also really did nothing to earn this lofty position. Even his magic powers might not be his own. This is a bit of projection, admittedly, but it's possible that his mom's twin Rova are the source of his big trump card before he naps the Triforce of Power. In short, from his political to personal power, Ganondorf really didn't do much to earn it on his own. Although in his defense, back in the past he is fairly active in trying to push his revolt against Hyrule. The problem is, these efforts really don't amount to much. His grand evil plan involves cutting off a luxury food supply to the Gorons and giving Jabu Jabu indigestion. Being fair, killing the Great Deku Tree is a solid win, but even that only indirectly helps his goals of getting into the Sacred Realm. I mean, it does push Link on his quest to begin with, but that only by chance helps him get into the Temple of Time. Essentially, he only gets access to the Triforce because Link and Zelda screwed up and left the door wide open for him. While he does say that this is all according to Kikaku, That means grand quest for power was achieved by this grown man outsmarting two literal children. What a master tactician. Like how Link's role in the story changes with its 7-year time skip, Ganondorf's role changes to better reflect the message and theme of Ocarina of Time. Once he has absolute power and total control over Hyrule, what does Ganondorf do? Basically nothing. At this point, when he's essentially just won, he's content to sit on his victory and kick back in his castle. While he wasn't by any means a brilliant supervillain in the past, as we just went over, he was at least proactive in trying to achieve his goals. In the future, Ganondorf sends out his servants to execute the Gorons to Volvagia, and lets his creatures like Moblins do his bidding elsewhere. He does nothing on his own and just sits content with past glory. In other words, he's stagnated, and the world begins to reflect this. Zora's domain freezes over, Lake Hylia dries up, Death Mountain begins erupting ceaselessly, monstrous plants have overgrown the Kokiri Forest, and Hyrule lies in ruins with zombies aimlessly wandering around. The kingdom is dying and completely out of balance, and with things like a lack of viable water supply, his empire is more than likely bound for collapse anyway. And in this ruined world, what exactly does Ganondorf still want? To take over the entire world, of course. The question is, at this point, why? He already has Hyrule and is content to do absolutely nothing with it, letting it sit and rot for 7 years. The only guess I can make is that Ganondorf simply wants power for power's sake. To say that he's the strongest one around, the king of the hill, without any ideas or plans or stable governance. Remember how we went over that he never properly earned the power and authority that he had in the past? Well, that lack of grit on his part rears its full head in the future. In short, Ganondorf is a man-child. He's someone who had everything given to him, and as such never really learned the value of planning, effort, and proper work ethic. And when he's essentially given the highest prestige and godlike powers on a silver platter when taking over Hyrule, what does he do? He stays holed up in his room, keeping himself distracted by playing his organ while his moms do the actual work in the Gerudo Desert governing his tribe that he essentially abandoned. And still, it's not good enough and he wants more. Ocarina of Time is a coming-of-age story with Link as the protagonist and audience insert, and this is why Ganondorf, for the reasons that we've gone over, acts as the perfect foil and antagonist. Link puts in the work to try and fix all the messes caused by Ganondorf's greed and inaction, restoring the world to its former functional state. And in the end, where the Link who went through numerous trials and tribulations comes out victorious in a fight against Ganondorf, Ganondorf can't handle it. He refuses to give Link credit and is astonished that he was bested by someone he looked down upon for being just some kid. Link was a child forced to mature fast in a very literal sense and proactively bears the responsibility of other people willingly. And in a game all about growing up, he has to confront his very antithesis as the final challenge. An adult in age only who never worked for what he was given and refused to progress or grow up. Again, this is all extremely basic shit I'm talking about, and this doesn't change the themes of Ocarina of Time that so many others have covered, but Ganondorf as this tyrannical man-child is an aspect of the presentation I feel has gone overlooked. Or maybe it was overlooked because it's complete horseshit, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but who knows, right?